Hey there. I just wanted to take a quick moment to let you know about something that I've been noticing semi-recently that I should have noticed earlier, which you may have noticed yourself, but possibly not. So that's why I wanted to bring it to the forefront just in case. And that is that Blu-rays now, just your standard Blu-rays, I'm not talking 4K, I'm talking standard 1080p Blu-ray discs that you can get. A lot of the new releases also have a Dolby Atmos soundtrack. Yeah. Did you know that? Did you notice? Were you aware of this? Have you been keeping track of physical media in general like I have? If not, this is yet another reason to continue to get physical media, and I'll go over some obvious reasons why you should continue to get it. But I just wanted to point out that you don't have to have a 4K title to get Dolby Atmos audio now. Dolby Atmos used to be tied exclusively to 4K titles, and that was it. There were rare occasions where you would get a Dolby Atmos soundtrack on a standard Blu-ray disc, like the infamous Diamond Lux edition of Gravity, which is now obsolete because they re-released it on Blu-ray with the Dolby Atmos soundtrack. And then say the Turbine edition of Twister that you could get from Germany if you import it, which was also standard Blu-ray, but did have a Dolby Atmos soundtrack. But let me just hop online real quick. Let me show you that a lot of the new releases do have a Dolby Atmos soundtrack. So let's hop on over real quick. So I'm not sure when exactly it started to become more mainstream to have Dolby Atmos soundtracks on a standard Blu-ray disc, but I do know that the original Dune that came out in 2021. So if I click on this, you can see it is the standard Blu-ray edition, not the 4K edition, because it also comes with a DVD version. But look at this. Audio, English, Dolby Atmos. That may have been the choice of director Denis Villeneuve. That's very possible because his soundtracks honestly deserve to be heard in Dolby Atmos because his sound design team is one of the best in Hollywood that's working today. But I just want to show you a couple other examples. Even Dune Part 2, again, standard Blu-ray, not 4K, English, Dolby Atmos. There it is. Because for the longest time, in order to experience Dolby Atmos from a disc, you would have to have a 4K Blu-ray player, you would have to have a 4K TV, you would have to have a receiver that was able to decode Dolby Atmos audio. So if you hadn't quite made the transition to make everything in your signal chain 4K, you were just kind of out of luck, really. Granted, streaming services, Apple TV Plus, Netflix, HBO, whatever, those have been providing a compressed, lossy version of Atmos for quite some time. So that is one way you could experience Atmos if you had an Atmos-compatible soundbar or if you had a compatible traditional AVR system. But for those physical media fans out there like myself who kind of don't want to spend like $30 on a new 4K Blu-ray disc, the standard Blu-ray is obviously going to be cheaper. Because, if you continue to buy the movies that you enjoy and you really like and you want to have in your collection, it definitely adds up when you're getting the 4K version every time. Yes, it's not just about the audio, it is about HDR. HDR definitely makes the picture quality that much better. A lot of movies nowadays are shot either in 4K or 6K, 8K, and then downsampled to 4K. And, it looks great, yes. But for those of you still with a 1080p TV or with a standard Blu-ray player, as long as you have a compatible soundbar or traditional AVR that can decode Atmos, you can actually get Atmos now. Or another scenario is, say you have a 4K TV, but you haven't yet upgraded to a 4K Blu-ray player, you just have a standard Blu-ray player. Almost all 4K TVs nowadays have 4K upscaling. So you will still get a superior picture compared to a standard 1080p TV if you have a Blu-ray player and a Blu-ray disc that is then upscaled to 4K. So that's another thing to think about. But there's another thing I want to show you, and it's if you enjoy animated movies, like me, I'm a dad, I have kids, they love animated movies. So I tend to also get a lot of animated movies on physical media because I like to own them. I like to have them in my hand. I like to have them in my collection. So there have been plenty of nights where we're like, hey, let's watch some animated movie. And my kids rattle off some name and we're like, oh, well, let's see if any of the streaming platforms have that currently on their servers. A majority of the time, they don't. It's nowhere to be found. Maybe it's just some obscure thing that hasn't been out for a while and just nobody is streaming it for whatever reason. So I do like to continue to grow my animated movie collection so that when there are instances like that where my kids request something and it's not on any streaming platform, I could be like, oh, well, I have the physical copy. Yay, let's watch it. So yes, let me jump online again and show you something about collecting animated movies in particular on physical media. All right, just for example, Kung Fu Panda 4 just came out a little less than a month ago. This is your standard Blu-ray, but look, Dolby Atmos. Hey, look at that. So it's an animated movie. It's regular 1080p, but it has Dolby Atmos. And on Amazon, it's currently $24.95. But let's go to Kung Fu Panda 4 4K, right? Same movie, but the 4K version. Oh, look at this. The resolution upscaled to 4K. So it's not a native 4K transfer, which is honestly typical of most animated movies. Because if all animated movies were rendered in 4K, they would take so long to render. So to be able to have that constant workflow that is not bogging them down, I think a lot of animated movies are still rendered in 1080p. It's $29.95, $5 more for the 4K version, but all you're getting is an upscaled version of 4K. You're not getting a native 4K animated transfer. And yes, the 4K version obviously has a Dolby Atmos soundtrack. So I guess you're paying $5 more for the HDR because it's being upscaled anyway. All right, let's look at another example that just came out earlier this year, February 27th of 2024, Migration. Here is the 4K Ultra HD version, once again, upscaled to 4K. It does have Dolby Atmos, yes, which is typical for most 4K Blu-ray discs, but let's look at the standard Blu-ray edition. Okay, standard Blu-ray, resolution 1080p, of course, but audio, English, Dolby Atmos. Haha. So again, you're paying more for the 4K animated version just for the HDR. There are a few titles where I do opt for the 4K version if it's animated, but most of the time while I'm continuing to collect animated movies, it's usually the standard Blu-ray version. Because your brain just knows if it's real people on the screen. You can tell, you can see their skin tones, you can see the HDR quality, you can see people, your brain knows people. But when it comes to animated quality, it still looks really good on a 4K TV, having that Blu-ray version being upscaled to 4K. Because in regards to animated movies, I honestly don't think HDR improves it all that much because it was created in a computer. You're not dealing with real people with lights bouncing off real people's faces and stuff like that, It's literally environments that were all created in a box. I mean, nowadays with lots of CGI, that's how, live action movies are done anyway. But you get what I'm saying, right? So yeah, if you're a parent and you have kids, and you like Dolby Atmos and you have a Dolby Atmos compatible system and you don't want to miss out on the Dolby Atmos soundtrack, it looks like, at least in 2024 and here on out, animated standard Blu-ray releases also come with Dolby Atmos soundtracks. So you're not missing out on the full immersive experience. You're paying less because this is standard Blu-ray, which if you have a 4K TV is going to be upscaled anyway. And you have a physical copy of it. So with all the streaming platforms adding things and taking away and adding things and taking away all the time, never knowing which animated movies your kids are going to want to watch at any given time, if you're hesitant about, I don't know, possibly starting an animated movie collection, honestly, now is the time. And again, not just animated movies. If you're not wanting to spend 30 some odd dollars every time you want to have a 4K copy of something, it looks like from here on out, Dolby Atmos is so popular and so in demand that standard 1080p Blu-ray discs have the Dolby Atmos soundtrack now. It seems like that has become standard and not only tied to a 4K disc. So that's honestly really cool. I'm really glad that this has become a thing. Again, I'm not sure when exactly it happened. And as I showed you, bluray.com is where I go to find out what audio codec is on a disc. So if you need to double check and see if it actually does have an Atmos track or if it is just, standard DTS HD 7.1 or whatever, bluray.com is the quick and easy way to find out for sure. Okay, one last little caveat that I want to talk about is the fact that if you are planning on maybe starting a physical media collection now, and you want to experience Dolby Atmos even from a standard Blu-ray disc, I would still recommend getting a 4K Blu-ray player. So that way you have the flexibility of, if indeed you do want to get the 4K version of something, whatever title that may be, you can do so, and your 4K Blu-ray player can play it. But also, just looking online at various just 1080p standard Blu-ray players, it still doesn't seem like they are capable of even passing through Dolby Atmos. I could be wrong with some models. There may be some models out there that are few and far between that can pass through Dolby Atmos, because it's not going to be your Blu-ray player that's going to be decoding the Dolby Atmos soundtrack anyway. It's going to be your receiver or soundbar, whatever. But the ability to pass through that Dolby Atmos soundtrack still needs to be in that Blu-ray player to make it work. And that is possible by switching the audio output on your Blu-ray player to bitstream. So yeah, if you are going through the menus of your Blu-ray player and one of the options of the audio output is bitstream, yes, you should be okay. But in the end, like I said, I would still recommend getting a 4K Blu-ray player in 2024 so that you have that option, because all 4K Blu-ray players are backwards compatible. They can play standard Blu-rays, they can play DVDs, whatever. And nowadays, 4K Blu-ray players are so commonplace that they're pretty cheap. I've even seen some on clearance at Best Buy for like $75, $80, which is really cheap. Typically, a 4K Blu-ray player is still going to hover probably around $150 to $200. But yeah, if you're going to wait for a really good sale, do some bargain hunting for some sort of clearance item, then yeah, that's definitely an option too. So yeah, just wanted to quickly go over that, just because I've been noticing it's become more commonplace for standard Blu-ray players to have a Dolby Atmos soundtrack with new releases nowadays. So it's no longer just on this high tier to be able to experience Dolby Atmos discs, or it's on some like pedestal that you gotta invest in just to be able to experience it all, So yeah, when the zombie apocalypse happens, internet goes down, all you can rely on for entertainment is your physical media collection. If you haven't started one now, honestly, now's the time. It's just that much more accessible, especially since now you can get a fully immersive Dolby Atmos experience, even from standard Blu-ray. And also just a reminder, when you're building your animated movie collection, just do what I do. Just get the 1080p version. It still looks great on a 4K TV being upscaled, because the 4K version of the animated movie is going to be upscaled anyway. So might as well save $5 and get the standard Blu-ray version with Dolby Atmos. And again, you don't have to worry if you might be able to watch an animated movie or not, because you're not sure if whatever streaming platform is going to have it. It's there. It's in your hand. You know you have it. You can just pop it in. You're good to go. So that's it, folks. Just wanted to touch on that real quick. In case you didn't know, just bringing that to the forefront. Dolby Atmos is finally trickling its way down so that everyone who wants to can experience it. So with that being said, now it's your turn. Do you collect physical media like I do? What's your reasoning for continuing to collect physical media even in 2024? If you haven't really been collecting physical media, or maybe you did a long time ago and just stopped, Do you think now you might start again? Let's have a conversation about it, people. And with that, as always, this world is crazy as it is already, so it only makes sense to be kind to one another out there. Don't just watch TV and movies, experience them on physical media, on standard Blu-ray, in Dolby Atmos. And of course, always be listening.